Oh.
Hi.
Hey, it's Amy, and again I have Lauren with me.
Hi.
We've talked in a previous video about books we're currently reading and that we bought today, but I think now I just wanted to kind of chat to you, and I wanted to start a series around chatting to a lot of the people in my life that are book lovers as well, and just anything that comes up. So we've been talking a lot today about kind of books in general because I've been buying them, and I just wanted to continue that conversation here.
Sure.
So one interesting thing that we talked about that I wanted to bring up again here was organising our books. So we talked a lot. We were in the Falls Cafe, like proper
Being
like
hipster as well.
being hipster as hell, like drinking like iced lattes
Yeah.
in mug, like a glass jar, which just
It
felt,
was really hipster.
it was really hipster.
Yeah.
But because we slightly organise our books kind of the same way, but we also don't. There's quite interesting parallels and differences. So
I change depending on where I am and what books I have. So I have a lot of books back at my dad's, which means that I don't obviously have all of my books at the same time. So when I was at university, as I was saying to you earlier, I organised them by like publisher, and then any that didn't fit into the publisher or series bit, I alphabetized. Now I have more of in this flat I have my favourites on one shelf, ones that I just read and others, and then ones that don't really fit into either. And then I also have a separate bookshelf that's all my to be TBR books. But I was saying to Amy that I want to organise them by colour in my next flat. And then who did you quote?
Oh, there was a quote by Hannah Yanagihara, and it was in the Guardian or someplace, and it was talking about her flat, and like she has like 1,200 books or something crazy like that.
Oh, well, that's why.
Anyway. But her quote was, anyone who organises their books by colour doesn't actually respect their books.
Which
or
is
something
unfair.
like that.
Like, why? That's not... What's the reasoning?
I don't know. I guess it's... I don't know. She says she like alphabetises her books, and that's how she deals with it.
Which is sensible.
Yeah. And I'm not judging you.
Does she alphabetise by title, or does she alphabetise by author?
Assume author?
Yeah.
Assume author. But yeah, no, you do you. Like I literally said, I was like, you do you. And also like, so where I kind of do a little bit of this as well is with my TBR, I will always kind of change it around. So recently, when I first, so we're kind of in the same situation, we're kind of in between where we live. You also obviously still got books back in your like parents, like your dad's house. I live in Glasgow, but I'm down in Crawley, and also because I live in a furnished flat in Glasgow, all my books are in storage. Like I've read, because I've got quite a few, and it's too much to put into like a one-bed flat. So the to-be-read books I have down in Crawley, I keep reorganising because I like to be like inspired by my to-be-read books, because I want to pick up books from there. So when I first brought them down, I alphabetised them because that's how I usually do it, and then I was like, I keep staring at the same kind of pattern, so I alphabetised it by title. And that mixed up because then it kind of broke out like authors. So like the free proofs I have was really daunting when they were like one after the other, but when I broke them up, I was like, I can deal with that.
It's weird, like psychological.
And it really helps. So I've been reading a lot more from my TBR pal.
Good.
And then yesterday I rearranged them again, and I rearranged them by book size. So I literally went through each of my books, jotted down the number of pages, and I went from shortest to longest.
Okay, that's interesting. That could be useful.
Yeah.
If you want a short book, you can go from one end.
It has been useful.
Yeah.
Because then because also like a lot of the history. So I read a lot of like we talked about in my last video. I read a lot of non-fiction and primarily history books. And a lot of those and a lot of non-fiction have like a lot of notes and appendices at the end. So really, it looks like this one looks like a 400-page book. It probably is. I think it's only 330 pages. So like.
Oh yeah, that's quite a lot of notes.
Yeah, let me just find. I put a little thing, but like that much of it is notes.
That's quite.
So once I'd done that, it made a lot of non-fiction seem less weighty, daunting. So with that, and then other than that, I just kind of keep my read and tuber read completely separate. I usually keep my non-fiction separate. When I get to a point, I hope at some point I'll have enough non-fiction that I can categorise my non-fiction by either by history and then other non-fiction. Like I read sometimes some science and some popular science, and if I have enough history, then break it out by country.
Would you have separate bookshelves for that, or would you?
I would So when I did have all my bookshelves before, when I actually lived in a house, we had a bookshelf for non-fiction. which was a smaller one.
All these fancy bookshelves, I just have one.
Well, I don't have it anymore. I don't have it
Yeah.
anymore. So when we get to that point, because I'm moving to Stockholm, when I have that point to have my own place and then buy bookshelves again, I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
And then we talked about this. We do the same thing in that we order by collections, like publishers.
Yeah, I don't want to separate books that look the same. Like I
Yeah.
like them being in order. So like the Roald Dahl, I would put all together.
Yeah, definitely. Like that one works better because it's an author. So
Yeah.
alphabetically that works. But like, so stuff like the Penguin, Black Classics look lovely together.
Yeah, you can't separate them.
Yeah, like, yeah, and the vintage Red Spines and the modern classic Penguins. I would keep them all together.
Yeah, all your Terry Pratchett you put together anyway. So
Yeah.
you would do that.
But I would like pull it out. So like I keep my collection separately. So I'd have what I did is I had my Black Classics, my vintage, modern classics, and I keep all my Murakami together. Because I was saying like Murakami's an author that I read all of his books, bar a couple. So I keep them separate from my read. And I do the same with Terry Pratchett. Just because there's so many, and I feel like the collection needs to be apart from like the alphabetized order.
Yeah, I mean that might be the way to do it for when I move, to be honest, because
of course you get the excitement because Lauren's moving. We're in her flat, but this is one you're leaving in 2 weeks. You get to organise your books again. That is really exciting. I love doing that. That's my favourite bit of moving.
But Gavin's going to be like organising our room and like the kitchen. I'm going to be spending hours moving my books around.
That's what you move for.
There's the books, yeah.
Okay, so we kind of have like we're more alike than we think, but I guess your colour thing is coming from like because you're moving in with Alice. Yeah, but also you're saying we're moving in with Alice, who's a friend from our undergraduate studies.
Yeah, so
you want to kind of blend your books together.
We'll mix the books probably because it will save space and everything. And luckily we'll probably have some repeats. We probably have because we
that'd be cool though.
Taste. Yeah,
but I've never experienced putting my like blending my books with anyone, except for Sam. But Sam hasn't got many books, whereas Alice.
Well, she doesn't.
Alice has quite a few, I think.
She has like books that she'll keep, and then and the others she'll rotate or swap with people.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I should do more of that.
It's
I'm quite. If I got a book and I love it, I'm very protective of it.
Yeah, I mean it depends on how much I love it. Like if it's like my favourite book, I will lend it, but I'll be like, can you give it back? Whereas if it's a book that I really like, but I want people to read it, and I'm not worried about getting it back because I can just buy another copy. I lend it out. I really like the lending and secondhand idea, to be honest. It means like you're sharing a story or a non-fiction that you really, really like with someone. That's quite an emotional like thing. Like I saw a post the other day that was like, it was on Instagram and it was "Love is buying me books." And that's true because when someone buys you a book that is just perfect for you, like you just like, oh, you really know me. Like, obviously you guys with Roald Dahl, but also Josh.
You got me some great books. Like, well, I feel like we know each other really well as people. So like, whenever we buy each other books, so you got me that. Was it? Is it Eating Like a Carnivore? Or
it's The Ethical Carnivore.
Ethical Carnivore. So that was the book you got me for my birthday. Yeah, for my birthday, as if I know when my birthday.
Oh no,
is.
I think it was Christmas.
Was it Christmas?
It was Christmas, and I hadn't got it for you yet because. It hadn't arrived yet. Anyway,
so you gave me that one, and I was like, I'm going to talk about before. I'm vegan, so that was really interesting. And like, I haven't read it yet, but I will get to it. But like, whenever you buy each other books, it's very personal.
Yeah, we've thought about it.
Yeah, and I love buying people books. Like, it's the first thing I'll think to buy someone as a present.
Yeah, no, same.
And I wish I knew more people that were bookish like Lauren, because then like I can go to Sam, Sam, my partner, I can buy books for. My dad. I can, but like he is so busy with his own business that he rarely reads them. My mum doesn't read, my brother doesn't read, so sometimes it's really frustrating trying to buy something for someone if they don't like books. I'm like, what the hell am I going to buy you?
Yeah, it's like because Josh, for my birthday last year, got me The Name of the Wind.
Which is really good.
He's really good at getting me books, like really scary. Like Josh, why do you know me so well? But he got me The Name of the Wind. That was really good, and it's such a big fantasy. But he got me both of them. The series, they're really good, and that was the kind of book where I poured over and was trying to make it last because it was so good. And that doesn't happen to me often. Like Mum will lend me her books, but she doesn't really buy me books anymore, so it's not like a personal
it's different,
thing.
Isn't it?
Yeah, buying someone books or thinking when you read it this will be perfect for this person is really like a nice personal thing. I love it when that happens. Gavin's not going to do that for me.
Sam actually got me into Brandon Sanderson, so like we bought you. That's
I can't wait to read that.
Sam got me into it because I was talking about this before, but like Sam got like a Humble bundle, and there was a couple of like performed, so it wasn't just like an Audible book; it was like performed audio version of like Warbreaker was one of them, and Elantris was another. and I really loved them because it was like a whole cast and it was very theatrical, like
Yeah.
listening to it, and it had like the sound effects and crap.
That's cool.
Really cool. And like I really love those two books. They're probably some of my favourites. Like I really like those standalones. And from then on, I've kind of listened to the rest of his bibliography on Audible. So Sam's kind of got me to do that. Sam rarely reads anything that I say he should, because he read Catch in the Rye and hated it.
Well, yeah, he read Catch in the Rye at the wrong time.
Like we said, like if you read Catch in the Rye before you're like 19 or 20, good. If you read it afterwards, you just there's no point. I think if I read it now, I'd hate it, but I did like it when I read it.
I think rereading it is fine because you know how you felt when you first read it.
Yeah,
but
true.
But if you read it for the first time at 25, like it would just be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, so
Such
this
an
is an
asshole.
idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. But I hardly ever like. I lend out some books, but it's usually when I don't care about them. Like they're good,
Yeah.
but like so I borrowed some books with my dad, which I borrowed The Establishment by Owen James, and then I had a friend who was like had no books. Like she left her books like up north where she was from, so I was like, I'll give you some books, and one of them was that, and I just had forgotten about it, and I'm like, I need that back before I go back to Glasgow.
Yeah.
Another one was like a book by Alex Ferguson, which was like about leading, so it's his like memoir and like his advice on like leading a team, because obviously like Man United and so on and so forth. And that was when I was thinking about growing as a professional businesswoman, and now I'm like, I don't give a fuck because I'm moving to Stockholm. So now I'm like, I'm like, I think I'm actually just gonna give that book away. Like I think I'm gonna give that book to someone in a colleague of mine in Glasgow who was like, oh, I really want to read that, and I was like, I'll buy you a copy. I really love buying people books. And now I'm just like, I'll just give it to him.
I think this ties into my book guilt quite well that we're talking about, is that when someone buys me a book or gives me a book or lends me a book, that is nice and I don't feel bad about reading it, and I'm happy to read it. As soon as I buy myself a book, even these, I mean not as much because they were cheaper, but if I buy myself a brand new book from Foyles or Waterstones or an expensive book, I feel guilty, and it's I was saying to you about it, it's from when I was at university and I was reading books, because I did an English degree. I was reading like 3 books a week for my degree, and if I wasn't reading one of the books that I was supposed to be reading, I felt guilty. So I wouldn't, during university, I didn't buy books unless it was for my course or like very tenuously linked to my course. And that's left over now, even like we've been out of university 3 years. Well, you've been 2 because you did your master's.
Yeah, but
was it 2 or 1? I said you had a gap.
Yeah, it's odd.
So like I've been out of university as long as I was in university, which is 3 years. Yeah. And so that's remained with me for 3 years, is that if I buy a brand new book, I feel really bad for spending the money, but then I don't feel bad about spending money on food that I don't need. So it's very hard to shake it, and that's why when someone gives me a book, it's so much more of a happy thing, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. Whereas if I'm reading, I mean, not so much with these, but if I'm reading an expensive book, I feel bad reading it, and I have to look after it more because I spent so much money on it that, you know, I shouldn't have. So.
So do you think it's something that will like go away with time, or do you think it's something that you maybe need to work on? Like, because we were talking about like a massive conversation about like self-love and stuff, and like trying to push like purchases onto like
things
other than food. So do you think you can make it into that, or do you think that you might have to change your buying experience, like maybe doing more secondhand books?
I think I'm gonna try and only buy secondhand at the moment, or like online, like Amazon. I get it secondhand.
And like e-books are really good as well.
Yeah, or the book depository. But I'm also gonna like try and save a bit more and make it less about the money thing, because I think it is the money thing. I think I'm still in the head of, I'm a student and the money that I earn should be spent on making me live, but actually it should be spent on me. I'm just going to cross my. It should be spent on improving my life as well, and books improve my life. Yeah, because I'm learning.
No, definitely. I think because I talked about this in the preview. I did like a book buying tag like recently in my last video, and it was like asking like, do you buy too many books and all this kind of crap? And I was like, I think I used to, and I think I still feel a lot of not anxiety. That's probably like a bit too much, but like I feel quite odd if I keep buying books but I'm not reading at the same pace. So like today I was like, I bought 4 books, and that feels like quite a lot.
Only because I only bought 3.
No, but it's like quite a lot to buy when I don't read I probably read that many physical books in a month, but it's adding to a TBR that I should be tackling first.
You do have a large TBR, but I don't think that means you need to tackle that first. I think you just need to set out the ones that you really want to read. Yeah. And then if that goes down, then you don't want to read any of the 75 books maybe. But
I do have books I want to read, which is probably a bit stupid.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you have and how often you read, and you read quite a lot. I mean, I do, but mine, try and balance mine a bit more because I'm a piece of shit. Because I don't have enough. Because like if I come home, my instant reaction is not I'm going to sit and read. It's going to be like I'll watch something and then read, or I read on my commute. Whereas you're the type of person who will rather sit and read than watch something.
Yeah, just because I can't. I'm so out of the.
Whereas I'm a bit of both. But I also I'm such a big consumer of like media, music, films, like TV.
Yeah, you're usually a recommendation for that for me.
Yeah, whilst books is very high up on that list, I feel like they're all about equal, so I balance it out. So books is always going to be the first thing that I want to buy. I'm not going to buy series, I'm not going to buy films, but that's the easiest way to consume things sometimes.
Oh, definitely.
Sometimes my eyes are too tired. So the only time I really read is on my commute, or like when I've just got that 5 minutes of, I really want to read, not 5 minutes, but that time where I want to read like before bed. So when I come home, it's not a read, it's come home, eat dinner, watch something, then read, go to bed.
Yeah. I think sometimes I put too much pressure on myself, because it's another thing we want to talk about, is like pressure of reading books. We both had Goodreads challenges, and that is always something that's on my mind.
I feel so anxious about it.
So,
I'm 9 weeks behind.
Are we okay
9 months behind.
Are we okay to talk about this?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Sure?
Yeah, no.
Okay. We have wine, so like you've got 2 glasses of wine for us.
Like afterwards, I feel.
This is cool. But like, what was I even going to say? I got distracted by wine.
Sorry. How many are on your book challenge?
So I started out really low because I was like, I thought don't put too much pressure on yourself. I think you can read. I was like, I think you can read like 3 books a month. 3 books a month feels good. So I put 36. Is that right?
Yeah, something.
Yes, 3 times 12. 36.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I was like 36. I feel like I can do that. And what really changed the rate I was reading books? So I feel like the average for me is about 3 or 4 books a month.
Yeah.
But what I do now is I read, like I was saying, audiobooks on my way to work and from work, and also I listen to audiobooks at work, which is probably a little bit naughty. Like everyone listens to music at work. So I'm a market analyst, so like we're like plugged into an Excel sheet. I'm plugged into like research, and a lot of us listen to music and so on and so forth. But I don't like particularly listen to music at work. I'll listen to podcasts, and then I went into listening to audiobooks at work.
Okay, so that's how you're getting through so many.
Yeah, no, literally, I will get through.
I can't do that. 2
audiobooks a week.
I have to talk to people.
Like 1 audiobook at least a week.
Yeah.
And then I'll read 1 physical book a week. So that's 2 a week. I'm usually reading at the moment 8 or 9 books a month. I know.
So behind.
No. So like that's how I'm keeping up. So 36 I probably cracked in May or June, and then I'm upped it to. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And then I moved up to 50, and I did that really recently. Yeah. So I did that about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I upped it recently to 65, and I'm on 54 at the moment.
Okay. So I'm on 4 a month. My target for 2017 is 52. I think I'm on 25. So I'm behind now because it's at the end of August.
Okay.
The reason I'm behind is because I read the fucking Name of the Wind and whatever the thing is, the next one is the 2 fantasy books. Yeah. And because I really enjoyed them, I made them last longer, and that took.
But that's a really beautiful experience.
It's
so
good.
You shouldn't hate yourself for that.
But it means that I am like 9 books behind, and even though now I'm reading at a pace of 1 a week, it doesn't matter because I'm still going to be behind. I'm going to have to at some point read a hella ton of graphic novels. In order, not that graphic novels are easier, they're just shorter.
Do you think you could change your reading challenge?
I don't want to.
Do you not want to? Okay.
I managed 50 last year.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to have to read more. I not have to, but like, because I enjoy it. But that is the thing that we were saying. Like, if you've got this challenge and you're behind, it makes you not enjoy reading as much because you feel like you're doing it for a reason. And when you read, do you read to escape or do you read for a different reason? Because there's so many different reasons that people do read. And I remember when I was in 6th form talking to my English teacher, he was like, the majority of people read to escape, so that's why most people prefer fiction.
Okay.
Whereas
different.
Is yours like educational? Is it like, I don't know, because I think mine's a bit of both. I think on the one hand I do read to just kind of get out of like this world and just experience a nice new one or a nice story, but on the other hand I do enjoy reading books that are other people's experiences or other people's stories, which means I'm learning. Yeah. And I do both, I think.
So mine is primarily educational.
Right.
So mine is like, because my whole thing, like my whole goal in life is to keep learning.
Yeah.
So that's why I did.
Same.
That's why I feel like that's why I did my degree. That's why I
Yeah.
left school. I don't know if you feel the same. Because obviously, like you say, like
I love
part of the science is educational.
Yeah.
So like even fiction for me is educational because like so Guapa is about the Middle East, and I've yet to read probably any books about the Middle East or set in the Middle East, except for
we read
like
Sex and the Citadel.
shit we did. Yeah. So like I've read like 2 or 3. I've read Khaled Hosseini, so like The Kite Runner, Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
Really love them, but I've never really read a lot more than that. So I see that as educational.
Yeah.
That's why I read a lot of non-fiction because I find it enriching.
Yeah.
And I like reading and learning more. The only problem I have is that I put a lot of pressure on myself to read more, and I worry sometimes that I go through things too quickly. So I'll get to. I'm really like trying to consume things. So like on this, even though I'm enjoying it, I'll get to at the end of a chapter and I'll be like, okay, how many pages are in this chapter? How many do I have to read? Can I read this quickly?
See, I
watch the clock, so I'm like, okay, I feel like I can read 50 pages in an hour, and I'll get half an hour. I'm like, how am I doing?
I used to do that.
That's really quite. I don't like that.
So when I was younger, I used to literally devour books. Like I don't know if people used to say that about you. My parents would be like, "Oh, Lauren devours books." Like I used to sit there and I used to read a book because I was a kid and didn't have anything else to do. I would sit and read a book in a day. Like I could do that. On holiday, I would have to take a book a day.
Or so I've never been like that. I've never been able to like. So my reading pace is really quite slow.
It's not so much the pace. It's more just like I wanted to finish that book and I wanted to read that book. So okay, maybe not every day, but I would have to take enough to last me the holiday, and then if I didn't, my mum would lend me her books.
Okay.
So I think that your reading now is very much similar to that. It's like how fast can I finish this book?
Yeah, I don't think it's healthy.
I don't know. I think it just develops. It depends on the book as well, maybe.
Yeah.
Like if you're reading something you really enjoy, do you want to finish it quicker?
I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes I just want to. Okay, no. If I'm enjoying a book, I will let it kind of pace itself a lot more. So it's a lot of books that I'll read. So I'm very lucky in that I usually get a vibe for a book and recommend. That's why I like getting recommendations, because a lot of the books I read are 4 or 5 stars. So I get a very high proportion of books that I'll give 4 or 5 stars and that I'll really enjoy. A 3 for me is like average. It was good, okay. 2 is like I'm disappointed. I've only had 1 2-star, and that was a non-fiction, and it was really horrible.
Yeah.
I read a few 3 stars on audiobooks, and that's fine because I listen to it at 1.45 speed, so like I get through it quickly, and I don't feel too bad about it. But a lot of the books I read are 4 stars usually.
Yeah.
But I do feel sometimes that I rush it still.
So do you watch Heather on her BookTube?
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Yeah, so I know a friend. So so first year we lived with, it was me, you, Helen, Alice, who we're going to see later, and Heather, also who studied English with you, had a BookTube channel. And we'll link it down below.
So Heather is really opinionated about her books, not in a bad way. She will tell you honestly what she thinks. Yeah. And she's always been like that, and it means that sometimes in English she wouldn't read the books that she was supposed to read.
I remember that.
But it's good because she can give you an honest review of the book. I'm not like that. I am not a very critical reader in that aspect. So if I'm perfectly happy. If someone gives me a book, I'm perfectly happy to read it. Like I don't necessarily. I couldn't tell you why I hated it unless it was really like. It would have to be an instant. Oh my god, this is awful.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of a book. Like I literally cannot even think of a book that I hated enough to give like not even a star.
Frankenstein.
See, but the thing is that I can appreciate. No, it sucks 100%, but I can appreciate that it's a classic and it's a popular novel. It's the same as Dracula. Dracula is the worst written, but it's so badly written.
It's entertaining.
This is I can understand why I liked it, and that's why I finished it.
Okay.
And I like it, but it's notoriously a badly written horror story. It's like across like literature, it's supposed to be like the worst.
Yeah.
Famously.
I didn't get that memo.
Not because it was necessarily awful, but because it was a popular. It was just the way it was written at the time. Popular, it's a pop fiction novel. But even then, like I was perfectly happy to read Dracula. I'm not opinionated enough in my books, but like you were saying, like It's the same with Alice. Alice started reading How to Be Both and was like, I hate this, and put it down. Like, I can't do that. I feel like I need to finish it, and even then I'm like, yeah, it was alright.
But do you think that, I think that's probably like a beneficial thing, is that you probably read like a wider variety of books. I feel like when I talk to you, like, you'll read YA, you'll read fantasy, you'll read like sci-fi fiction, you probably, like classics, you're very varied.
Yeah.
One thing you probably don't, that you talk about is like non-fiction maybe.
Yeah.
But I think non-fiction is a bit more of like I don't know, I think it's not necessarily you can dip in and out of, you usually like it or you don't like it, and it's like a training thing sometimes, so it's not necessarily but I close myself off to genres. Like, I definitely do this. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't like YA. Like, I'm definitely like a snotty reader, like, I don't read YA.
But then you've bought Diana Jones, or you want to buy
so
which is in the children's section.
It's in the children's. It's not even like young adult, it's children's. But that's because I liked House Moving Castle, that's why. So I didn't really categorize that as like a YA. It's different, but like I always was like, I cannot read fantasy. Like fantasy, I was like never gonna read it. I'm now reading Terry Pratchett books and Robin Hobbs, and I love them.
I think that's just you're given the opportunity to like buy Sam, for example, and Sam likes it, so you're like, oh, maybe I'll try it, and then you kind of, I think when people you like something, you tend to give it a chance. Yeah, and that's what's happened. So like there'll probably be many fantasy books that you'll hate, because fantasy can just go on sometimes, and there's so many tropes.
Yeah, I think I'm worried about tropes. Yeah. So I don't think I'll read. I think I'll probably read these series and not many more. I want to read Name of the Wind because I've heard so much good things about that. But definitely with books, I will not read. Like, usually if it's like a new book, I will rarely buy a lot of new books. And I only buy it if I like the sound of it and if it's been recommended enough.
Yeah.
So like I will. If someone's like, oh, you should read this. Unless it comes with enough of a recommendation, I'll be like, I probably don't like the sound of that.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, I rarely read books set in America just because I usually don't like them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I have a strong self-awareness of what I like and don't like, and I will usually, if I look at a book and I'll read it, I'm like, I don't want to read that.
Yeah.
And I'll just walk past books.
I mean, I do have that to a certain extent in a shop, but if I have it on my shelf, I'm going to read it eventually, and I'm probably going to give it a good review.
See, I cull all my books. I talked about this. Like, I will get rid of books.
That's why I have this one. That's why
I gave her that one because even if I haven't read it, and I knew I wanted to read it at some point, but I'm not going to read it soon. So
I'm enjoying it. It's been a couple of days, and I'm halfway through.
See, I don't think I would have got to that point in a couple of days.
It's quite easy to read.
But I'm not a quick reader, so that's why I put so much pressure on it. But yeah, so I don't know. I think you probably experience a lot more stuff than me because I'm quicker to get rid of stuff. And I think I'm probably not letting myself experience
I can't throw away books or give away books without having experienced them myself, because unless it... No, I haven't. I don't think I've ever given away or thrown away a book unless I've read it.
Okay. No, I will give away stuff I've not read.
I'm a hoarder.
That's fine.
Oh, I didn't show you. I've packed them all away. I have in my book collection all the books. So we read Sex and Citadel.
Ah, yeah. We never got going with that.
What with sex books?
No, like not sex books.
No, but what I was going to say is I have like a collection of books about sex, like science, like sexual science. Like,
yeah, you went for a spat of reading those.
I still have, like, I want to read them. Is like those are non-fiction.
Yeah,
there you go. I like some non-fiction.
As if you don't. I don't read non-fiction. You read you went for a real stage of like reading loads of non-fiction about like sexuality, sex.
And I still want. I've got a list of people that of books that I'm gonna read, and that they were like I had a whole entire shelf on that bookshelf that was all sex books, sexual science books.
Yeah.
And they were, you should have read. Bonk, it's so good. I'm sorry, but it's such a good book.
Well, yeah, that's like, see, if you recommend stuff, I'll read it. So I'll read Bonk at some point. We should keep probably doing stuff like that, reading books together and stuff, because it's really enjoyable.
But I think Sex and the Citadel was interesting.
Yeah, I still remember it. I reference it to people all the time.
It's just really basically it's a book about how sex is thought about in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, in both modern day and
how it used to
religious things. So it's looking at the Quran and how it actually deals with sex, and also how the Middle East thought about sex historically, and how it's changed, and how it's come to be what it is now, and what people perceive it as being very closed-minded and quite violent. And then she does admit that it is in some cases, but then she's also I think they're the end, one of the last chapters is talking about trans culture in these
and
countries.
Also the younger generation, people that are our age are a lot more open, because it's
and I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, so no, it's very interesting, but I just that's the non-fiction I enjoy is stuff
and I read that more when I read stuff because of you. I wouldn't usually pick that stuff up.
But I picked it up because, well, kind of partly because of BookTube, but also because when I worked at Rape Crisis, like it was just topical. So I was reading things about.
That sounds awful, but it's not.
But like I was reading articles about rape and sexual violence, and then that would lead on to a book about sexual health or sexual safety or like sexual science and how it's measured and stuff. Like Bonk has like an entire section about sex machines. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
But like it moves on from that, and so like a few of the fiction I've read recently has been about rape and stuff. So
but that's like a topic of interest just because of your history, and it's really good. That's why I like having like your reading style so different to Sam's reading style and Alice's reading style and Heather's reading style. That it's really cool to get inspired by it. So like technically, so I wouldn't have read without like you recommending it and recommending us read it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have read Brandon Sanderson. Sam hadn't been like, you have to read it. I'll see you in my next video, and hopefully I'm going to try and get one with Sam, my partner, because he reads a lot of sci-fi fantasy, so I'll ask him some questions.
I would watch that just to see Sam awkward on camera.
No, Sam's such a massive chatter. He would love it. He would take over. Sam's so extroverted.
We need to do a video about vegan food with Sam, because as an
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Cool.
Sorry.
Alright, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.